Who wants to go after Madeline? Good morning, Bridgepoint. Nah, business leaders in the room. Good morning, Bridgepoint. I'm so excited to be here this morning, and I was listening to Madeline. I'm like, man, what did I do to deserve to go after that? Right? Who wants to follow that? Wasn't she amazing? Huh? Can anybody repeat the line that she said? What comes first and what comes second? Ah, confidence comes what? Courage comes first and confidence comes what? Second. That was great. Listen, I am so excited to have all of you here. 2024 has been quite the year. Would you guys agree? It's been a year of just great things and amazing things and surprising things. But it's also been a year of amazing travel for me and what I get to do around the country and around the world. And so a couple months ago, I had a chance to go on like a 2-week speaking engagement in different cities. And I checked into a hotel in Boston. And I'm not going to say which hotel brand because I don't want to offend the CEO if they're here at this conference. And it was late, and I walked in, and you could just tell the staff was just ready to go home. And I asked them, hey, is there something to eat around? They said, no, the kitchen closes at 9 o'clock, and so there's absolutely nothing we can do for you. And I was hungry because it was a long flight, and I got in late. And so a couple weeks ago, I was down in Miami. How many of you guys have been to Miami? How many of you guys are from Miami? All right? I was down in Miami, and I was at the Ritz-Carlton in Key Biscayne. Got in around the same time, and I was hungry. There's something about being hungry late at night after you travel, right? And so I asked the guy, says, there's something to eat? He said, unfortunately, everything is closed. But because of your status with Marriott and all that stuff, we'll get something for you. So both of those are hotels. Both of those offer you a bed and a shower. And what was the difference with the Ritz-Carlton in Key Biscayne and the hotel that I will leave unnamed in Boston? It was a culture thing. It was a thing about culture, the culture that they had created on how you experience their facility. And this morning, I want to talk to you about something that's very important for your business and your organization that really affects the bottom line. I know sometimes we look at our KPIs and we look at our spreadsheets and we look at how we're going to make this money, but there's a small little thing that really makes a difference in how sustainable, how profitable, and how people experience your product, your service, or what you have spent a lifetime putting together, which is a great business plan. And I want to talk to you about building a thriving culture. How do you build a culture that's going to be a winning culture that makes people want to do business with you, to experience you, your products, your services, and then you have those repeat customers that want to keep coming back, not because you're the best game in town, but you give them the best experience. Because you guys understand that customers will come back to you even if your price is a little higher than the guy down the street because of how they feel. I will pay more to go to a place where I feel respected, valued, appreciated, whereas I will not pay less to go somewhere where they're going to make me feel as if I don't matter. So we're going to talk about culture. How many of you guys want to talk about that today, right? Culture is something that's extremely important. I love what Dick Clark has to say. He says, culture eats strategy for lunch. Now, I'm a strategist. I'm a business strategist. I love doing strategy. But when I'm working with a client, I always tell them, don't focus so much on the strategy, even though that's important, but pay as much attention to the culture that you're creating within the organization, how people respond to your leadership, how they respond to what you're doing. And so Dick Clark says culture eats strategy for lunch. How many guys would agree with that culture makes a big difference, right? Yeah. And so by the time we're done with this today, we're going to talk about finding the personality of your business. Now, I know some of you have personalities in your business. You have that person who shows up late to work, or that person who always has an attitude or has something to say, right? Deal with strong personalities. But how many of you guys know that your business has a personality? Your business has its own personality. And when we talk about culture, I want to put it in the framework of understanding that organizational culture is the personality of your business. It really defines how you operate and it describes your business. The other thing I want you to understand is organizational culture are really the intangibles of your business. It's something that you can't really see, I mean, in terms of with your eyes, but you can feel it. You can sense it. You walk into Chick-fil-A, right? You walk into McDonald's. They both serve you food that you shouldn't be eating. This is where you go, yep. Fries, fried chicken, right? But what's the difference between McDonald's? I hope I'm not offending any McDonald's goers here. I hope I'm not. McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, they both give you a full stomach, but you will probably go back to Chick-fil-A because what? They never say, what do you want? Number one, number two. No. Welcome to Chick-fil-A. How may I serve you, right? And then you ask us, they say, I'll get it right away, my pleasure. What's the difference? It's the culture that's been established. How many guys have ever flown a cheap airline? I won't name any names, but one of them just filed for bankruptcy I'm just kidding. All right, they're already filed, right? Or you fly one of the main airlines and you fly first class, right? What's the difference? It's the culture that the company establishes that gives you a different flying experience. See, a lot of leaders, they confuse culture with strategy and vision. I want you to get what I'm going to say here because this is very important. Strategy and vision focuses on the product. Culture focuses on the people. And if you want to build a business that is going to be thriving, that's going to be making money, like printing money, like Madeline talked about earlier, you want to focus on creating a thriving, a winning culture. I love sports. I am a sports junkie. I have my favorite teams. I won't name them in here because, again, I don't want to offend anybody. But I love other teams. I admire other teams. How many guys like the Patriots? Okay, wrong room. How many guys like the Chicago Bulls when they win all the championships? Wrong room. How many guys like any teams? But I watch the Patriots as much as I don't like them because I grew up in Miami. I'm a Dolphins fan. And there you go. And they're in our division, okay? The Patriots are in our division. But for a long time, as much as I wanted them to lose, I had to admire just how they won 6 Super Bowls with this skinny kid who played for Michigan, right? Was a 6th-round pick, right? How do you do that? When you study how the Patriots went on that incredible run or the Golden State Warriors, they have a culture. And no matter the name on your jersey, no matter how much your contract is, when you agree to play for those teams, you have to agree to become part of what? The culture that they have established. And so what you want to do is, no matter how gifted an employee is, how great they are, you want to make them fit into a culture that is the personality of your business, okay? So that's how you do that. So let's talk really about one of the things that's extremely important as you build culture. It's the word trust. It's the word trust. We live in a country that our slogan is, in God we trust, right? Trust is the glue. Trust is the glue that keeps any organization going. If you want to establish a thriving culture, your employees have got to trust you and you have got to trust them. I didn't say you have to go to dinner with them. I didn't say you have to hang out with them on the weekends. But during those working hours, it's important that trust is established because once trust is broken in an organization, it's extremely difficult to develop any type of momentum. So what's your reaction to that statement? How many guys believe trust is important in your business? Right? Trust is extremely important. What happens when you feel like trust has been broken? You feel like something is missing in the organization, correct? And so I want you to understand when you walk out of here today, you want to establish a culture that is strong and vibrant by making sure that trust is the glue that's keeping you together. Now, one of the things I always tell people is that there are different types of culture that you can establish. You can establish a strong culture, you can establish a healthy culture, or you can establish a toxic culture. I have spoken to many organizations or consulted with many organizations, and you can tell from the attitude of the employees whether it's a healthy culture or a toxic culture. Now, our firm, we have a whole way of determining, what's a healthy culture, those diagnostics. And one of the things that we find is that when there is a strong and a vibrant culture, it does something to the people. It does something to the people. And if you can see on the screen, what does it do to the people? That's what a vibrant culture does. It what? It stimulates people to be what? Their very best so they can reach their goals and make sure that your company is killing it and crushing it. So your job as a company leader, as a CEO, as a CFO, a COO, or whatever, is to establish that culture that is going to give you a winning company. Nobody goes in business to lose, right? Nobody goes, well, I think I want to fail, so I'm going to go ahead and start a business. I think I just want to experience failure, so I'm going to really run this thing to the ground. Everybody wants to succeed. But why is it that some organizations succeed and why is it that some of them don't? A lot of times, it's not their business plan. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a lack of funding. But sometimes it's really how the people who are in the organization treat each other, and then that begins to affect how the organization goes. So in anything that you're going to do, you're going to have input versus output, right? So you have to create a system of a cultural system where you have inputs and outputs, right? Here's what I think. The outcomes are the reputation of the leader. So how many of you guys ever had the meeting in the room and then they had the meeting in the hallway? You guys ever had the meeting after the meeting where they're saying, did you hear what Tom said in the meeting? Did you hear that? I'm not doing that. So what happens? It's a cultural thing. And when someone walks out of a meeting and they have another meeting to talk about the meeting and they were quiet in the meeting, right? You ever had someone, they have nothing to say in the meeting, but after the meeting they have everything to say. That's a cultural thing, right? So as you think about your culture that you want to establish, I want you to think about where does the shaping begin? John Maxwell said everything begins and ends with leadership. Everything starts and finishes with leadership. The shape of an organization's culture begins at the top with the senior leader. Look nowhere else but the senior leader. Your competency, your character, your way of treating the people around you will greatly determine the direction and the trajectory of your organization. So you go, here we go again. As a leader, I have to be responsible. When I walked into that Ritz-Carlton, I could tell that the leader had trained his people to make sure that a guest never leaves here feeling that they were dismissed or ignored. I can tell. And guess what I did? When I was leaving, I found the person who helped me and I congratulated them. Now you say, how'd you congratulate them? You just said thank you? No. I said, listen, so tell me a little bit about your working situation. He goes, well, we make about $22 an hour, and we rely on customers being happy, and they tip us. I said, you know what? I think I'm just gonna make you happy today. You wanna take the rest of the day off? He was like, I don't think I can afford to. I said, what's the rest of the day gonna look like? He said, about $150. I said, here you go. Just take the rest of the day off and go be with your family. What did I reward? What did I reward? I rewarded the experience that came from the culture that was established, right? And so guess what I'm gonna do if I go back to Miami again? If I get invited to speak again, I'm gonna say, can you guys please put me at the Ritz-Carlton on Key Biscayne? Not because they have a better bed. The bed was horrible, by the way. The bed was horrible. But the culture is what's gonna drive me back there. And so I want you to think about this. I love what Mitch said. He says, the culture we have does not make people feel good about themselves. And you have to be strong enough to say it. If the culture doesn't work, don't buy it. If the culture doesn't work, don't buy it. Now, there are a few underlying principles that I want to share with you real quickly, because I really want, by the time you leave here, for you to start thinking about what is it that we need to tweak in our business? What is that we need to tweak in our organization to make it become some place that people want to come to work or that customers want to do business with us again? Now, I was talking to one of our attendees here yesterday during the reception, and he was sharing about how he had a business, he sold it, and then he got bored because his wife was watching a show, and he's like, I got to go back to work. So at 65, he decided, I'm going to go and start another company, and we're going to do this all over again. And I sat and I listened to him as he was speaking. I'm like, there's so much years of experience. And he says, here's what I did. I'm going to go after my old clients that I had, and they're going to do business with me. And I'm thinking, the reason why he can go after those clients that he had after he retired, and now he says, I want you to do business with me. What do you think are going to make those people come back? It's the culture and how he treated them, right? So some underlying principles I want you to understand real quickly. Culture is the most important factor in any organization, whether it be for-profit, not-for-profit. Culture is usually unnoticed, unspoken, unexamined. Top leaders need to spend as much time developing culture as they do everything else. Why? Because culture determines how people respond to leadership and vision. Culture determines how people respond to leadership and vision. Culture, I know you're gonna get tired of this word, like, I'm done with culture, Dr. Phil, enough culture already. But culture often surfaces and is addressed in negative circumstances. A lot of times where you're going to see in organizations' cultures when things are not going well. Here's what I want you to understand. Culture is hard to change, but change results in multiplied experiences. Now, you got to determine what kind of culture you want to establish. I would rather lead an organization that has inspiring culture, that has a culture where people feel inspired, right? Because leaders give clear direction. They are not authoritarian. They value the input of others. The organizations that win consistently, it's a team-based leadership. It's not top-down, it's bottom-up, it's grassroots. It's where people feel empowered. For years, Southwest was killing it in the airline industry. Not because they gave you 2 bags for free, which is great. And the open seating. How many guys like the open seating? I don't too much like the open seating. I want to have my seat. How many of you guys like open seating? Yeah? But you know why Southwest was killing it for years? Their executives twice a year would trade places with the baggage handlers and the gate agents and the ticket counter agent. The executives would go and do the job of loading the plane, serving the customers. Why do you think they did that? They did that so they can understand what it's like doing that mundane job. Now, why would a multimillionaire go and lift bags? First of all, probably needs to work out. But second, it's to communicate to the team when there is a complaint that comes to us about baggage handling, we can relate because we've been on the ramp. And I found that to be extremely fascinating, right? So what you need to understand is people throughout the organization really believe that what they do every day matters. If you empower your team to make them believe they are the VIP of that company, you will get more than what you're paying for. You will get a lot more than what you're paying for. So when you go back to your organization and you sit and you look, you say, what are our goals? What are our KPIs for 2025? Think about the idea of the culture that you want to establish. Now, unfortunately, I've been in some meetings where the culture was not great and they were still making money. Because that can happen too, because accidents happen, right? But they were making money, but here's what they were spending: a lot of money in dealing with people's bad attitude. And so I want you to think about this. When you have expectations of your employees, set them by creating an inspiring culture, right? Now, I don't want to keep you here too long because I know the music's going to start playing, but one of the things I want you to think about as we talk about culture is I want you to sit down right now and think about your organization. Do you think you have a healthy culture or a not so healthy culture? And I want you to write down 3 things that makes you think that your culture at your job or your business is healthy, and 3 things that you would like to change as a result of being in this room for the last hour hour and 5 minutes listening to an amazing speaker that went before me. Just write down those three things real quick. DJ, can we get some process music as they think about that employee that I want to fire, or that raise that I've been thinking about giving, but I've been like, no, I don't want. I'm gonna give about 2 minutes to think about that. So I'm gonna land the plane um, by giving you 7 keys of culture, right? 7 keys of culture, 7 takeaways that you can um, kind of think about and process in the context of your organization, right? First thing is control. Control. People function most effectively when they are given authority plus responsibility. That's the formula you need to understand. Authority plus responsibility. When people feel that they have control, when they feel that they're held accountable for a task, right? They feel empowered to deliver. The second key that I want you to think about is to establish a great culture is not just control, but this thing called understanding. Understanding. Every person on the team needs a clear grasp of the vision. Where are we going? Who are we as a company? Who are we as a company? I'm going to go back to Marriott. I'm going to go back to the Ritz-Carlton. They have a clear vision. We cater to a certain demographic of customer. We want to give them an experience like none other before. So everybody from the bellman to the person at the check-in counter to the person who's cleaning the property, they understand the vision is that the customer must leave here with a platinum experience. If you want to maximize the production of your team, get them to understand what we do around here, how we do it, why we do it, and who do we do it for. Every person on the team needs to clearly understand one another's role and strengths and weaknesses. It's important that people know who they are working with. The third thing that I want you to think about out of the 7 is leadership. Healthy teams are lifelines of leadership development. Good organization activity seek to discover, develop, and deploy good leaders. You want to train your employees to think like leaders. Cultures that are vibrant are the ones where the employees feel like one day I can probably do this. I met a guy a couple years ago who was working as a surgical tech. He was working as a surgical tech, and but he was interested in one day becoming a surgeon. And so he asked one of the surgeons, "Can I shadow you?" And the surgeon said, "People like you don't become surgeons. You're just a tech." But the guy wanted to learn how to possibly go into medical school. So he asked another surgeon. The other surgeon said, "Well, it would take me too much time for you to shadow me." But the guy persisted, and he asked a third surgeon, and that surgeon says, "You know what? I'll give you 2 years of shadowing." After that surgical tech shadowed that surgeon for 2 years, he applied for medical school, and he got accepted. Fast forward the story. 8 years later, this guy graduates as a surgeon. What made someone go from being a surgical tech to now becoming a surgeon? It was someone in the organization that believed enough in him to give him the time of day to train him. When you think of your leadership, when you think of your company, you want to be able to empower people so that one day they too can probably create their own. But you want to put that non-compete clause though, right? That if I empower you, you got to do business 50 miles away from where I do business or in another city, because you're not going to come and take it anyway. So leadership. The fourth thing about culture is the idea of trust. Here goes that word again, trust. Mutual trust among the team members makes everything go. It is the key to effectiveness. Integrity and consistency are the foundation of trust. Trust is fluid, right? It takes time to build, but it can destroy an institution rapidly. The fifth one is not just trust, but courage. Here goes that word again. Great teams take risks being vulnerable and speak up when something is wrong. If people feel their psychological safety, they have the courage to say what they need to say, because nothing makes an organization struggle than when the morale of the team is low and people just don't want to be there. You don't want to lead a team, which I call the just for the paycheck team. You know what's just for the paycheck team? I'm just here for the paycheck, not because I care about what I do. And then responsive. When we are responsive, great teams are responsive in little things, such as, some of you guys go, I'd love to this, such as promptly returning an email, as they are of the big things. It's the little things that you do, the attention that you pay to details. The larger an organization grows, the greater amount of energy it will take to be responsive to people, both within and without the organization. So that's a culture thing. And I really want you to think about the idea of execution. Execution. Great cultures execute the plan that the leader lays out. And so as you think about what it is that you want to get done in the next 3 to 5 years, your 18-month plan, 12 to 18-month plan, think about the idea of culture. As you sit down and you look at your projections and you think about how much money we want to make, how do we want to cut our budget, if we're going to increase staffing, make sure you're not just bringing people onto the team, but you're bringing people that fit the culture of the organization. I have always told organizations this: fire quickly, hire slowly. Why do you do that? Because you want to make sure you're not just bringing another warm body into the building, you're bringing someone that fits the culture. Some teams will reject a star player, as good as they are, because they don't fit the culture of the team. And so you want to do this as a business leader, is that when you're going into your next season of growth and your next season of scaling your business, don't just look at what you need, look at who you're going to bring in to meet that need. And if you take your time, you will find the right person that fits the culture. I really believe this. Culture is not only what we do, but why and how we do something. And so I have had the privilege of working with executives, small, mid-sized, and larger companies. And when they establish a great culture, when they establish a winning culture, a thriving culture, first of all, they can't thank me enough for helping them understand the value of culture. But then they feel much better about leading the organization. And here's my hope for those of you that are here at this conference, is that next year, when this conference is put on again, you'll come back with some amazing stories of how the culture of your organization, the culture of your company, took a drastic shift in the right direction because you made the connection at the Bridgepoint conference. Thank you so much for being here today, and I am so excited. Thank you, and have a great day.